and we're broadcasting this all over the world today. You know, I think I should begin by thanking Catherine Weishaupt over in Germany. Catherine said something to us one day that really stopped and made me think. She said, you know, Bob, success is really just 5% strategy and it's 95% mindset. Now, I've been in this business all my adult life, and I never thought of it like that. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized Catherine's nailed this. She is right. Now, she's a very, very successful individual, and she has obviously thought all these things through. And as I get thinking about it, I thought this what accounts for people that go all through school and many, many degrees, and yet just don't seem to be able to make it work. They're struggling with income. They never take a decent holiday. And it's not because they're not smart. They're absolutely brilliant. And yet they struggle. And then it also accounts for a person that really hasn't got a whole lot going for them and shoots off and wins, like myself. I had 2 months high school. I had never had a half-decent job in my life. I had a bad attitude and a bad work record. And Ray Stanford gave me this book, Think and Grow Rich. And he said, Bob, he said, you're blaming your situation in life on the fact you didn't go to school and you've never had a good job. He said, if you'll quit thinking in reverse, quit looking backwards and letting the past dictate the future, if you will follow direction, you can have anything you want. And I thought about it and I thought, wait a minute. He said, if you can follow direction. If you can't follow direction, he said, probably things are not going to change too much. He said, this man's giving you direction. He said, I'll give you direction. And he said, you can have anything you want. Now, I really didn't believe that. But you know something? I believed he believed it. And I thought, I think maybe the guy's right. I'm going to give it a whirl. Well, you know, in nothing flat, within the year, my income had skyrocketed. It went from $4,000 a year to $14,500 a month. Now, if you annualize that, that's $175,000 a year. I hadn't made $175,000 that year, but I was up to $14,500 a month, so I was going to earn that in a year. I have never looked back, but I've never stopped studying either. I have quite a beautiful library here in the studio. This is the Proctor Gallagher Institute studio. And I also have a beautiful library in my home. I put reading right at the top of priorities. I was in here at about 4:15 this morning studying. And that is very common. That's the first thing I do in the morning is study. Now, I am going to share something with you. We call it Mindset 2020. And if you will follow direction and do as we're suggesting, you're going to have a beautiful year next year. Now, if you haven't downloaded the book, this is the book. I put mine in a ring binder. Go to imindset.com and download this exercise book, this planner, It's got great information in it, and it's got the potential of changing your life. Now, let's get up here and go to work at this for a few minutes. You'll see there's 3 essential questions that we want to recommend you ask yourself. And it's very important that you ask these questions because I think it'll put you on the track that you want to get on. The first one is, what has my life been like up to this point? Now, I think it's important you look at that. Now, you'd be inclined to say, well, it's been pretty good. Has it really? Has it really been pretty good? Think of this for a moment. You are God's highest form of creation. There is no one alive, all the brilliant people in the world, there is no one, not one, that can even guess at what you're capable of. No one knows what we're capable of. We have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. just waiting to be brought to the surface. So let's review our life up to this point. When Ray Stanford got me to look at mine, I was not very happy with it. Now think about it. Really think about this. What has my life been like up to this point? Now the second one is, what would I truly love my life to be like? Now, as we get to the end of this exercise, I've been guessing, I think probably it'll take us a good part of an hour, but I don't know how long, because I'm not going to stop and have you go through all the exercises. I'm going to suggest that between now and the end of the year, this is only the 13th, that you go through these exercises and you really think and you give them serious attention, because it's your life that you're talking about. What would I truly love my life to be like? I'm going to tell you, I honestly feel like I live a charmed life. I have wonderful friends all over the world, and we're always coming up with great new ideas, and things just keep getting better. I put my friends at the top of the list of things that I'm grateful for, because they changed my life. Now, the third part is very, very important. The third question: am I open, honest, and committed enough to make whatever changes Mindset 2020 requires? See, there's some real important questions in here. Now, if you'll flip over onto page 4, and take a look here. We have, you may know people. We're suggesting you start moving. You can take those questions down now if you want, Scott. And we point out here that start to move in the right direction. Now, in here, you may know people who are continually struggling to improve. The salespeople whose sales are low and who's always struggling to raise their sales. Or the student in school whose marks are always a C or even lower, and they're pushing and they're studying and they're really trying hard. Why can't these people improve? Now, I've given this a lot of thought, and of course I've lived in it for a long time. Well, let's analyze this situation and discover the common error. These people are trying desperately to change their end result. Now think of that. You see, Ray asked me when I first started, was I happy with my results? Well, of course I wasn't happy. And he put 3 H's down. He said, that's happiness, health, and wealth. And he proceeded to tell me that he thought I was one of the most miserable people he had ever met. He said, you're always sick. And he said, you're always broke. Well, this is what I was doing. I was forever trying to change the results. The results in our lives are determined by our actions. Now keep thinking of this. The actions are continually being motivated by the mindset. These people have not come to understand that their results are a direct reflection of the subconscious mindset. They're clutched by an unseen enemy because there's no understanding of their mindset, which is the actual cause of the results. Now, there's one common error. They are identifying with their present results because it's in harmony with the mindset. They look outside and they see it. And it's a reflection of what's going on inside. You know, many years ago, I was given a book. And it was quite an incredible book. The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. I was talking to a good friend, Robert Piscuzzi, and I think he was telling me he was reading that book. A woman gave me the book many, many years ago when I was in the late 60s. I was working at Gail Conant. The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power. I think it's probably one of the best books that I ever read on introspection. And in that book, we throw this up, Scott, is this quote. You cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. Now, do you know, I have a good friend of mine, Peggy McCall in Ottawa. Peggy McCall has had, I don't know how many best-selling books. She has worked with some of the top people in our industry, helping them write and publish books. Peggy was working for a company back in the 70s, AES Data. And they had called me and asked me to come and speak at a conference that they were putting on. Peggy was a young administration assistant for AES Data at that time. And she said this statement literally changed her life. You cannot escape from prison if you don't know you're in one. And Peggy said, I believe that fit me right to a T. And she said, you know, I had a bad attitude, things were not going right, but boom, just like that, everything changed. And you know what she changed was her attitude. Now, we're going to talk a bit about that in a few minutes, but that's really what changed. And her life changed. She said all kinds of books published, 30-some, I think, and I don't know how many different languages, and it's all over the world. That may change your life. That's a very powerful statement. Now, I'm going to put some slides up here and I'm going to talk to you for a moment because we're at the point where you've got to make a decision if you're going to follow these exercises. And I want to recommend that you go right through this book. Now, I'm going to take you through the book. We're just, as I said, we're not going to stop and work at different parts of it. I'm just going to go through it and hopefully you're going to get it. But to do that, you're going to have to make a decision. I'm going to share something with you about somebody that made a decision. There's a movie that I watch. I love the movie, Lawrence of Arabia. And there's Lawrence from the movie. And as Peter O'Toole, he played a marvelous role. They won 7 Academy Awards for this movie. It was made back in 1963. Now, that's not the real Lawrence. This is the real Lawrence here. T.E. Lawrence. He was a British archaeologist and was a British officer in the British Army. And he went to fight with the Arabs against the Ottoman during the First World War. And he became Lawrence of Arabia. He said something that I have read probably thousands of times, and I want you to think about it. We're talking here about making a decision to create a new mindset for 2020. I have told you if you use this and you use the exercise guide we're giving you here, your whole life can change and change dramatically. Look what he said. He said, all people dream. That's what our mindset starts out as a dream. All people dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But he says the dreamers of the day are the dangerous ones, for they may act on their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. He said, this I did. That's by T.E. Lawrence. I've thought of that many times. I'm a dreamer. I just used to dream at night. I dream in the daytime now, and I act on my dreams. It's helped me earn millions of dollars. It's helped me develop great relationships all over the world. And it'll do the same for you. But I'm going to tell you, to create the right mindset, you need a fair amount of courage. And I think you need a support system. That's what Sandy Gallagher and I work every day at doing, along with a phenomenal staff we have here at PGI. We work all the time trying to provide support for people that really want to step out and do it a little bit different. Now, many people shy away from making the big decisions because they don't have any money. That's where I was. When I picked this book up, I had no money. I was in debt. I was earning $4,000 a year. I owed $6,000. I was unhappy and I was broke. I mean, it wasn't good. Ray said to me, that's why you can't. He said, have you ever thought of how you can? Have you ever really taken a deep look at yourself? He said, you know, in this book, he wrote a whole chapter on decision. It's the longest chapter in the book. And he points out right on the first page of the chapter on decision that all successful people make decisions very fast, change them very slow, if and when they change them at all. Well, I'm going to tell you, for a long, long time, I wondered, how did they make their decisions so fast? What did they know? What are they doing that is so different? Well, I figured it out, and I'm going to share it with you. I want you to pay really close attention to this. In fact, I think we should go full screen with this, Scott. Let's take a real look at it. Here we're going to show you how to make a decision and make it fast, because that's what your Mindset 2020 is going to require. Let these lines represent levels of vibration. Levels of vibration are more commonly referred to as frequency. Your phone operates on a level of vibration or on a frequency. Now, you and I think on frequencies. We think on frequencies. Let these puffy little clouds represent thoughts. One thought follows another, just like cars on a train. They're just all hooked together. And those thoughts that we're thinking produce the results that we're getting. Now, because we're spiritual beings, and spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression, we're not satisfied with our results, and we shouldn't be. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. My grandmother, when I was a little kid, told me, Bob, you should be satisfied. Grandma was wrong. You should be happy with what you've got, regardless of where it is. Happiness has nothing to do with what's going on outside. So you should be happy with what you've got, but always dissatisfied. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. It causes us to want to reach. And we say, that's what I want to do. I see where I am, but that's where I want to go, and I'm going to do that. And this is where most people break down. They say, I'm going to do that as soon as I get the money. I'm going to do that as soon as the kids are out of school. I'm going to do that as soon as. And you know what happens? Pretty soon the decision fades. And it isn't too long after that, the goal fades too. Now, what's the problem here? What is the real problem? Well, the problem is that the person's thinking on this frequency, and the goal that they're going after is way up here on this frequency. Trying to get something while you're still on the lower frequency would be like trying to phone your brother and you phone the guy next door. You're not going to get your brother. If you want to get your brother, you've got to get on your brother's frequency. If you want the life that you dream of, if you want to reach your goals, you've got to go on that frequency. Now think of this for a moment. You've got to make a committed decision. We're going to talk a bit about that in a moment. You're going to make a committed decision, and when you do, you begin to think and act like the person you want to become, and you've let the past go. Now let me back that up. When you make a committed decision, you think and act like the person you want to become, and you let the past go, and you instantly start thinking on the frequency that all the good, all that's necessary for the manifestation of that goal is on. You see, want is the only prerequisite for making a decision. You don't need the money. I tell a story in the Born Rich book about a couple who wanted to buy a house, and I said, go buy one. They said, we can't buy a house, we haven't got any money. I said, you don't need any money. They said, what do you mean we don't? I said, you haven't made a decision to buy the house. What the hell do you need the money for? Everything in their life changed at that moment. Want is the only prerequisite. See, that's why successful people make the decision so fast. They know what they want. Well, now, I want to suggest you stop and think of what you want. think of what you want. What do you really want? Because you see, you figure out what you really want, and everything in your life is going to start to change for you. Now, if we could put that back up there, Scott, please. That's better. All right? Really think. Look over on page 5 of your planner. Here we go. There's a great piece of literature by William Murray. And he said, until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Now, if you look ahead in your book onto page 18, you're going to see there about the and 22, you're going to see about the law that makes this true. This isn't just a statement. He's expressing an idea about a law here. And he said all sorts of things occur to help one that would otherwise have never occurred. The whole stream of events issues from the decision, rising in one's favor, all manner of material assistance, which no person could have dreamed would have come their way. Now, I'm going to back this up and just look here for a moment. When they moved on and made a committed decision and moved on to the higher frequency, what happened? They began to think on the higher frequency, and they set up an attractive force, and everything starts coming to them. You see, you can only attract to you according to the frequency that you're on. Now, when we decide what we want and we start to put it down on paper, we paint the picture out with words, everything starts to happen that's pretty good. That's what Murray's talking about here in this very famous quote. Now, I want to suggest that on page 5, you make a written commitment and get someone to witness it that you've got a lot of respect for. That you're going to say, I want you to help me with this. I've tried to do these things before, and it's never really worked out for me. So I would like to ask you if you would let me be accountable to you and have them sign your commitment. Now, over on the next page, on page 6, we're suggesting here you make a written description in the present tense of what living your dream in all areas of your life would mean to you. This would be how from time to time you dream of living. It's not necessarily describing your new mindset, but it's information that you'll refer back to. So you got here, I see these beautiful aspects of my life in my imagination. So here you're starting in a couple of pages, and you write down some of the things you like. This is just freewheeling. You know, you might like to have your own plane. You might like to take great vacations 2 or 3 times a year. You might like to have financial stability where you never had to worry about money. You might like to have some real meaningful friends. You write down everything that you'd like. You want to be a very effective individual in the field that you have chosen to work in. You write these all down. It's not a mindset. This is sort of like a shopping list that you put down, and you're going to follow that. Now, let's take a look here. I want you to think how these things come to you. This is rather interesting. How did the acorn become a giant oak tree? I've got a couple of acorns. You'll see there's sort of a thing I collect. Here's one here. This is a little acorn with a lid on it. And this one, obviously made out of oak, but that somebody gave me. It's because I tell the story. How does an acorn become an oak tree? Well, let's think about it for a moment. The acorn grew into being a giant oak tree. Now think of this. When that acorn is planted in the earth, something really wild starts to happen. You see, as you understand the laws that govern the growth of the acorn, you're going to begin to understand that you grow by the same laws. And you want to start now growing into whatever your heart desires. But let's take a really close look at this. We might throw this up full screen, Scott, please. Take a look here for a moment. This is very rough artwork. I did it. Okay? Now, the acorn is planted in the earth. Energy is attracted to the acorn's energy and becomes one with the acorn. Now, think of this for a moment. If you look at the earth, you're going to find all kinds of different minerals, different parts of kinds of earth. It'd be earth on all different frequencies, all those little particles of earth. There's earth in there that will resonate with the seed for an acorn and help the acorn grow into an oak tree. There's energy in the earth that will resonate with the carrot seed and help it grow into a carrot. But the energy that grows into a carrot does not grow into an oak tree. It's different energy. Now let's look. There's the acorn, and we'll say that energy that's in harmony with the seed could be a long ways away. If we could see with the naked eye what's happening, you would see that energy marching like an obedient soldier right to the acorn. And that's the way it is. You see, the acorn has in it what's called a pattern plan. And the pattern plan controls the vibratory rate of the acorn. It keeps it on a specific frequency. And the acorn has no ability to change the frequency it's on. We operate the same way. It's that we can alter the frequency we're on. We can change the frequency at will. And unfortunately, that's what most people do. They're forever changing the frequency they're operating on. If you get in the same frequency and hold it there with your will, then good things happen. That's what John Kennedy was told by Dr. Werner von Braun he would require when he said, how would I get to the moon? How can I build a rocket that'll go to the moon, bring it back safely to Earth? Von Braun said the will to do it. In other words, hold that idea in your mind. Stay on that frequency. Well, you see, there is an attractive force in the acorn, and it'll draw that energy right to it. And as it becomes one with the acorn, what's the acorn do? It does the only thing it can do. It expands. And there's shoots come out of the bottom, and there's shoots come out of the top, and it breaks through the earth. Then it attracts from the atmosphere as well as from the earth. Only the energy that's in harmony with the vibration that it's in. You see, the cause of this is a pattern plans in the seed. It controls the vibration of the seed. The effect, of course, is the energy that created the oak tree was always here. It's in harmony with and was attracted to the seed. It's so obvious when we really stop and think. The acorn is in the earth. The energy for the oak tree is in the universe. The law of vibration and attraction brought them together. Thanks, God. Now, I want you to think of this. You're a spiritual being. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. It requires no modification, no improvement. It's all-knowing, all-powerful, ever-present. Now that's the real you. You are God's highest form of creation. You are a spiritual being, and you attract to you just what's in harmony with you. See, the law that we refer to is God's modus operandi. It's how the whole universe operates. It's no accident that the acorn grows into an oak tree. Now, of course, if you don't put the acorn in an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment, it will die. But that's true of us too. If we're not in an environment that conduces to our unfoldment, then we die. That doesn't mean that we get buried right away, but we just keep dying. It's create or disintegrate. If we're not going ahead, we're going backwards. So think, this is the real you. Understanding the truth of who you really are is going to change everything in your life. Everything. Now let's look for a moment. You're a spiritual being. Spirit is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. Now, spirit operates by law. Listen, these lines represent, we just used the idea a minute ago, the lines represent levels of vibration or frequencies. Well, the highest part of you is the spiritual part, and the lowest, of course, is the physical part. But right in the middle is what separates us from all the rest of the animal kingdom, is the intellect. Yet when we use the intellect properly, good things start to happen. You see, the beautiful part about this, everything is connected. Everything is connected. Every frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. So let's look here for a moment. Now, you're a spiritual being, you have an intellect, and you live in a physical body, okay? You have the ability, when you activate the intellect, to plug into the universal part of your personality, the spiritual side, pull thoughts together. Where are thoughts? Thoughts are omnipresent everywhere. So is spirit. And you build an idea, and by holding that idea, this is the mindset. By holding that idea, you'll move into form. It's such a beautiful thing to understand, and we don't understand it. Now, James Allen wrote it very well. He said, mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore, he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. We think in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but our looking glass. I love the way Earl put it one day. He says, you can always tell what a person is doing for the community by looking at what the community is doing for the person. Think. Now, this little drawing is the most valuable thing that I've ever come across in all 58 years that I've studied this. And I remember sitting down with Proctor Gallagher when she first came around our business. And I was explaining this to her, and this helped her understand how she had done so well in the law profession, in school prior to the law profession, then in the law profession. She was what you call an unconscious competent. She was doing everything we teach, but was not aware of what she was doing. I mentioned a good friend, Robert Pascuzzi, a few moments ago. Very, very successful guy. He had been doing this, but he couldn't articulate what he was doing. Now he can, because he understands it. So let's take a look here for a moment. Conscious mind is also the intellectual mind. And the subconscious is also universal intelligence. And the body, of course, is the instrument of the mind. Now I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. You can go back and you can study it because this is recorded, and you can go back through the recording. We're going through it fast because we don't have a lot of time to spend on it. So I'm going to flip through here. Now, a Dr. Fleet in San Antonio back in 1934, he said that he was very involved in the healing arts, and he said that there was a problem. He said, we're treating the body all the time. We're treating symptoms. We're not going to the cause of the problem. He said, you got to get in at the cause of the problem. He said, the cause starts in the mind. And he said, nobody's ever seen the mind, so I'm going to make a picture of the mind. And that's when he came up with this. And he said, the top half of the big circle is the conscious, the bottom half is the subconscious, and then the body, of course, is the instrument of the mind. Now, my dear friend who's gone now, Leland Val Vanderwall, taught this to me. It was the most valuable idea I had ever learned. Now, you may say, well, what's this got with mindset? This has everything to do with mindset. It's a strange thing. Very, very small percentage of the population win. Very small percentage of the population really understand what makes them tick. Everything originates in the mind. I don't care what it is you're looking at. Everything originates in the mind. So let's take a quick look. There's the conscious, subconscious, and body. Now, you can go back through this, but the conscious mind is the thinking mind, it's the educated mind, and that's where the intellect is resident. The subconscious is the emotional mind. Now, the conscious mind has the ability to choose. It can accept or reject. You can accept or reject what I'm telling you. And if you reject it, you can go ahead and originate. Now, the subconscious cannot do that. Whatever's planted in the subconscious must accept. It is like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant, but it'll return what you plant. Always. It's like we said, when you plant the acorn, you're going to get an oak tree, not a carrot. And it accepts it because it has no ability to reject it. Now, this is a very, very interesting part. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. I want you to think about that for a moment. It cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Now, this is all on page 11, 12, 13, 14. It's all in there, and I would recommend that you take a close look at it. So now, when you're born, this is the way you are. Your subconscious is wide open. Whatever's going on around is dumped right into your subconscious mind. This is how paradigms or mindsets are formed. Those of you who are interested in this, we have a great paradigm shift seminar going on in Los Angeles the end of January. I believe the seminar is sold out, but it's streaming, so you could stream it. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can go into 3 days. It's very powerful, and you really get into this. Now, a paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior, and almost all of our behavior is habitual. So you see, this is something that you really want to give a lot of thought to. Now, I'm going to show you something here I think is fairly important. I'm going too fast here. All right, now look in the conscious mind, and you're going to see here what Hill was talking about in this book. He said an educated person is not necessarily a person with an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is a person who has so developed their mental faculties that they can acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. We teach people they have to want something. If they want it, they can have it. You just have to figure out how to get it. Most people say, I want it, and then they figure out why they can't get it. The only prerequisite is that you want it. An educated person is the person who understands that. Now, here's something else. This is what separates you from the rest of the animal kingdom. This is where our higher faculties are in our conscious mind. You have the will. That gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. You've got reason. That gives you the ability to think. That separates us from all of the rest of the animal kingdom. Do you know, Archibald MacLeish had a character stand up in a play, Secret of Freedom, and he said, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you'll find in a pig or a horse. He was right. We have the ability to think. Then we have perception. I love the way our dear friend Wayne Dyer used to put it. He said, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. We have the ability to shift the way we look at anything. When you look at something, you think, well, I can't do it. Change your perspective. Look at it from another point of view. Perception. Then you have imagination. Now, we're going to touch on that a bit again in a few minutes. That's where your mindset is. That's where Mindset 2020 is. It's resident in your mind. Yet it's through your use of your imagination. And we have memory. Do you know that everybody has a perfect memory? There's no such thing as a bad memory. We had a man come over for our Matrix seminar. It's 6 days. It's very intensive, and it helps people really build businesses and originate ideas and then take them to market. Well, we had a man, Abdullah, come over from Saudi Arabia. He was a psychiatrist. And he was teaching people there to memorize the Quran. Jerry Lucas, a great ball player here in America, he was teaching people down in San Francisco to memorize the Bible. Imagine memorizing the Bible, memorizing the Quran. Think of that. Anybody can. We have a perfect memory. And last but not least, we have intuition. That is Spirit's way of sending us message. You hear a person say, God talks to them, well, it's through intuition. Do you know when you ask a question, the answer comes with the question? It's the flip side of the coin. It's the opposite side of the same thing. And if we were tuned in, we would hear it with our intuitive factor. Well, we have all these marvelous tools, and what we want to do is set aside all those senses, block out the outside world, and let's get into the inside. That's how you're going to come up with the mindset that you want to come up with. You're going to start to dream, really dream. Now look here for a moment. We go to school. School gives us valuable knowledge. However, it never taught us how to do what we already know how to do. And I'm suggesting you already know how to do a lot better than you're doing. And as you build the right mindset, you're going to see it happen. So here's a person with superior knowledge, inferior results, and that causes confusion and frustration. So we take it and we'll say, now this is what school does. It built all this knowledge in, but the results aren't there. Why aren't the results there? Well, because it's the mindset that's controlling the results. If you want to get better results, you got to change the mindset. It's so simple and so much misunderstood. Okay? We want to plant new ideas in our heart, new mindset. And as you watch, the results change. They change like night and day as we build a new mindset. And that's what I want to suggest you do. Go back through. We put some interesting stuff in this action planner for you. And we hope that you have really downloaded it and really started to study it, because it'll make a big difference in your life. Now look here for a moment. There's power flowing into your consciousness while I'm talking to you. You know, it's through the repetition of listening to this that it starts to stick in our mind. And as this power flows in, we think, we build thoughts with it, and we internalize those thoughts, we impress them upon the subconscious, but we also send them out into the universe. You pick up people's thinking from time to time. And as you impress the thoughts, that sets up feeling, and we send those feelings out into the universe, and they're also expressed with and through the body. Now, do you know, as we put all this together, the thoughts, the feelings, and the actions, 1, 2, 3. Do you know what that spells? That spells attitude. That's exactly what it spells. Our attitude isn't just our thinking. It's not just how we feel. Our attitude is the composite of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Now, we're giving you a lot of information here in a very short period of time, but we hope you'll go back through it. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to this. We talked earlier about people looking at the results, and you look at the results, and the results are there. You cannot deny it. The results are there, and there's no money in the bank. We've got our problems. There's no leads. We have no sales, and on we go. And we let those results fill our mind because we're paying all of our attention to them. Of course, we've been taught to do that since we were little kids. Look at the outside. We've been trained to do that. We take and we impress that upon the subconscious. That sets up the vibration in the body, and it causes the body to move into action, and bingo. We get the same results over again. There's a lot of people getting the same results right now this time of year that they were getting a year ago this time. Now, you want to make change about that. See, the results is, well, you can't ignore the results. No, you can't. I dream, but the dreams don't last. I mean, I haven't got any money. And so we build the dreams, but the dreams all fade. What should we do? Well, let's take a look at what we should do. Here we are here, and there's the results. Now, do you ignore? You definitely don't ignore the results. You do not ignore the results. Now, if you look at this, we're on page 16 in the planner. But keep this in mind. You have a memory, and you can remember those results. You don't have to dwell on them. Then you can take this power that's flowing into your consciousness and use your imagination. Remember, he said memory was one intellectual factor and imagination was one. You take the power that's flowing into your consciousness with your imagination, and you build a picture of your mindset. This is how I want to live. We told you on one of the earlier pages, write down all the things you want. They don't have to be in any order. Put them down in any order. But write everything down that you want. What would be included in your lifestyle? Then you take and you impress that concept of what you want, the lifestyle, the mindset you want, you impress it upon the subconscious mind. Now, I'm going to tell you what happens when you, through repetition, plant the idea of what you want in your subconscious. What happens is it turns into a dream. You become the world champion. Everything you want comes right into your life. You'll just make the right decision. You'll pick the right horse every time. That's the way it works. It's such a beautiful concept, and we're in control. Now, there's 3 laws in the back of the book. And we want you to go back and take a close look at those. On page 18 is the law of perpetual transmutation. We'll just talk about that for a moment. When you build the image of your mindset and you get emotionally involved, the law of perpetual transmutation takes over. It begins to move it into form. Everything operates by law. We have the law of polarity. When you look at that, it's over on page 20. You'll see, well, you'll have a tendency to say, well, maybe this is too big for me. Well, let's understand this. When you start to study the law of polarity, you'll realize nothing's big and nothing's small. You know? Pardon me, it's the law of relativity. I've got this wrong. I put the wrong one in here. It's the law of relativity. Nothing's big and nothing's small until you relate it to something else. And on the page, we have 3 boxes, A, B, C. You'll say A is small, but just relative to B. So B would be big relative to A, but if you compare B to C, then B is small. So what we're really talking about here is the law of relativity. We want to relate what we're doing. Nothing's big and nothing's small. Then we talk about the law of attraction and vibration on page 22. Now, your phone operates on the law of vibration. This phone is programmed onto a specific frequency, and so is yours. If I pull your number up and I hit send, bang, doesn't matter where you are in the world, we will both be on the same frequency. I can send you pictures, do anything. I can take your picture and hit send, it'll simultaneously be everywhere in the world. Well, when we get into the right vibration, we start attracting to us whatever we need. Now you'll see here in the planner is the idea on big money that Napoleon Hill talked about. I'm going to take a moment to go through it because I think it's worth going through. He said, when money comes in quantities known as the big money, it flows to the one who accumulates it as easily as water flows downhill. There exists a great unseen stream of power, which may be compared to a river, except that one side flows in one direction, carrying all who get into that side of the stream onward and upward to wealth, and the other side flows in the opposite direction, carrying all who are unfortunate enough to get into it and not able to extricate themselves from it downward to misery and poverty. So build the picture in your mind. You got this great stream of power. One side, people go to wealth. The other side, they're going in the other direction. Said every person who has accumulated great fortune has recognized the existence of the stream of life. It consists of one's thinking process. The positive emotions of thought form the side of the stream which carries one to fortune. The negative emotions form the side of the stream which carries one down to poverty. This carries a thought of stupendous importance to the person who is following this with the object of accumulating a fortune. If you're on the side of the stream which leads to poverty, this may serve as an oar which will propel you over onto the other side of the stream. It can serve you only through application and use. Merely reading and passing judgment on it, either one way or another, will no way benefit you. Poverty and riches often change places. Poverty may, and generally does, voluntarily take the place of riches. When riches take the place of poverty, the change is usually brought about through well-conceived and carefully executed plans. Poverty knows no plan. It needs no one to aid it because it is bold and ruthless. Riches are shy and timid. They have to be attracted. They said when riches take the place of poverty, the change is generally brought about through well-conceived and carefully executed plans. I made that change a long time ago. I owe a great deal of debt to my family and to Sandy Gallagher, my business partner. I mean, that woman is a financial genius. She really is. She literally changed this business a number of years ago and continues to change it. Now, let's think. If we want to build the mindset, we're going to have to put our imagination to work. On page 26, we talk about the imagination. Here Hill points out, he said, the imagination is the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world's ever known. You've got one. It's available. You can use it. Don't use it to go in the wrong direction. Most people are seeing what they don't want. Just see what you do want. Put your imagination to good work. Now, we're at the point now where we want to start creating this Mindset 2020. I want to suggest you go through this book, though. Go through this action planner. Really work at it diligently. Don't just pass over the exercises. In creating your plan, you'll see over on page 27, make your mindset worthwhile. Don't fool around. Make it a good one. I'm going to tell you, I live an absolutely incredible life. I really do. I often say that I feel like I live a charmed life. And I guess you would be right saying that because I understand these laws. Make your mindset worthwhile. And for goodness sake, don't miss doing this. I like the way Jim Rohn used to put it. It's easy to do. You know what the problem is? It's easy not to do. You've got between the 13th today and the end of the month. Do the plan. Do it. Make your mindset your own. Don't let anybody else say, well, you should do this, you should do that. Don't should have done anything. No one can should have done anything. You're either going to do it or you're not. Third one, choose wants, not needs. Don't look at what you need. You may be a little hard up. You may be in a bad spot financially. You say, I need this. There's no inspiration in needs. Your mindset has to be for what you want. Right in the beginning, I told you, write down everything you want. And last but not least, make it big and make it beautiful. Complete all exercises and make 2020 your year. It's such a magnificent concept. I want to again thank